Good evening. It is 6 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started and call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening. Thank you everyone for being here. We will start off with adopting the agenda. There's going to be a slight amendment or revision to the agenda as we are tabling letter I, which has to do with the Lincoln Elementary gym floor. So they're still working on some numbers and just needed some additional time. So with that, I would take a motion to adopt the agenda as presented with the revision and removal of I.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of adopting the agenda as stated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is adopted. First, we'll start off with information and proposals. The first is an update on March 30, 2026 high school wrestling meeting. Mr. Kramer.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, hopefully. A nice fancy trick that I learned last time didn't work that time. Sorry about that. All right, so we will start here. Okay, so last Monday evening, we conducted a community feedback meeting, and I wanted to take an opportunity at this meeting to share the information that we've found so far regarding high school wrestling and the exploration of sharing wrestling across the district. Okay, there we go. So the purpose of that meeting was to gather the perspectives from that April 6th informational meeting. The survey that we conducted at the end was not a vote. The idea was to identify concerns and conditions the board should consider and inform in April and May board discussions. We did conduct two different surveys, one being the student athlete survey that was conducted at all three high schools. This was an anonymous survey of current high school wrestlers. The survey was not structured as a vote. It was designed to identify themes and conditions, and the results were shared at the community forum. Some of the information that was shared and at that meeting was the results regarding what athletes consistently recognized. These were framed in a positive frame, that there would be an opportunity for more practice partners and deeper rooms, better daily competition and development, growth opportunities for girls wrestling, potential for a stronger overall program, and benefits were acknowledged across all buildings, not just in singular buildings of Southeast Lingle or Torrington. Now, there are also, along with those benefits, there were a number of concerns that were identified. One of those major concerns for the athletes was team name and identity and school representation, the practice location and travel time, and the impact that that had, team culture, belonging and expectations, coaching, continuity and relationships, and strong cautions against rushing into a decision. Now, at the community survey, we had 25 total responses. There were parents of current, future wrestlers, coaches, and community members that were represented in that survey. There was representation from all involved schools, and it was distributed after the community meeting. So one of the pieces was if the community understood the issue, And after hearing the information that was presented, how they described their understanding of why the district is exploring this topic. 44% felt very clear on why there was exploration in this, 28% mostly clear, 20% somewhat clear, and 8% unclear. I do have some handouts for you as board members that I unfortunately was going to pass out before I did my presentation, but we'll do afterwards. So you'll have copies of these afterwards. Potential benefits that were identified on this survey by the community was long-term program sustainability. Approximately 75% of respondents felt that that was a potential benefit. More efficient use of facilities and coaching resources, deeper rooms and better practice competition, increased opportunities for girls wrestling, and improved postseason preparation. Primary concerns that were raised were practice location and travel logistics, team name, identity, and school representation, coaching structure and continuity, transportation and student safety, and risk of student attrition and impact on academics and family life. Conditions respondents wanted addressed first. Number one was clear practice location plan. Two bullet points: transportation plan that limits negative student impact, define coaching roles and continuity. There was then tie for third: fair and inclusive team identity process and continued student and parent input before implementation. The community's perspective on moving forward was based on what they knew today in that statement, which statement best matches their perspective. The blue there with the largest group, 36%, was I believe the district should move forward with combining wrestling programs for next season. The second was I see potential benefits but believe more work is needed before moving forward. The orange, I do not believe the district should move forward at this time. And the 8%, I am unsure and need more information. You'll see some continuity to some of those themes from the student perspective on their general feelings about combining. This question was framed a little bit differently. How would you describe your general feelings about combining the high school wrestling programs? 22% of students indicated they were very supportive, 16% somewhat supportive, 31% neutral or unsure, 14% somewhat concerned, and 14% very concerned. So key questions for the board: why is this being revisited now? How pertinent would a decision be? How will practice location and winter travel be managed? What happens to participation opportunities? How are boys and girls wrestling handled differently? Overall takeaways, the community certainly acknowledges potential benefits. There's no clear community consensus. There wasn't necessarily either in this situation one community that was adamantly against. Each community has those who are hesitant, those who are very positive, and a very interesting cross-reference across communities. And typically when you have the discussion of community sharing and those type of things, you'll usually have one central location be more centered around those concerns than others, where in these this type of framing, there didn't seem to be anything specifically aligned with the community or program that they are currently involved in. Themes align closely with student survey and results that we saw along with the community survey. The next steps: community and student feedback shared as the informational item. That's what we're doing tonight. There is no action being requested tonight. There will be board consideration of the May 12th decision. Many of the decision options for May 12th include moving forward, pausing, or stopping exploration. So those are the things that we have kind of in place. I don't know if that was me or if that was other things. I know a number of board members were able to attend the community meeting and just kind of providing that information. Some of the biggest things and the reasons why, and give you some background there, really what triggered this was a conversation from our wrestling coaches and wrestling programs, and starting with a DAC conversation in the month of February, and talking, or is it, or is the March one? Excuse me, the March meeting. And we had then a coaches meeting where we had all coaches from the programs. And one of the things we really discussed, and we discussed many of these same concerns, which we all have, was that I wanted to make sure everyone in that room was okay on moving forward. Is this something that they, if there was hesitation from one program or one coach, and there's certainly, as we can see with students' concerns and parent concerns, there are a number of concerns, but are those in view of the coaches and administrators that are part of those programs absolutely game stoppers to this? And the response from the coaches and all those in attendance was no. Moving forward with the exploration of surveying wrestlers and surveying the community was an important factor in this, especially from that community forum. Now, are all those answers addressed and everything is clear way to move forward? Absolutely not. And there's still time to work on some of the questions and probably develop other questions that may exist after this conversation. Really, the primary reason that why are we looking now is a lot of these things that we were looking in the last 10, 15 years were singular items. Many of these things have come back around and some have been added to. Participation patterns have been fluctuating for a number of years. And that's always a concern, not only in wrestling, but many of our other sports. This is something to take a look at. The other piece with participation is the addition of girls wrestling. That's kind of somewhat changed the dynamics of wrestling programs throughout the state, where it started as something that was in addition to the boys program because of the numbers. Now it's risen to there are definitely, and we would include ours, a Southeast Lingo Fort Laramie girls program is equally as large as our boys program. And so you have those programs that exist, and space is a big concern. We have facility limitations regarding those things. Program sustainability have reached a point where not asking the question would be somewhat irresponsible. The other piece is coaching burnout. When we have a head coach for both boys, that are in charge of both the boys and girls program, in some cases that can work. It's becoming a little bit more difficult as the popularity of the girls programs have increased to where these tournaments aren't being on the same day or even the same location. Many of them are being split to have those. And so coaching becomes a little bit more challenging in things. So there's still a lot of questions to be answered that we have not actually decided on. My plan is to continue to have the conversation in our DAC meeting tomorrow morning, which include board members and administrators from each building to look at some of those questions and have some of the answers to kind of decide where we kind of work towards. There was a lot of interesting information that was shared. I appreciated a lot of the feedback that we got at the community forum. Everybody can acknowledge there are some benefits, but there also are a lot of concerns. And so it isn't something that we can make unequivocally. This is an easy decision. This is another one, unfortunately, that is a very difficult decision that has a lot of things that can face what we're going to do in the future. I would ask any board members that were there at that community forum if they had any other things to add to my summary of what we talked about.
Superintendent Kramer?
Please.
If I understood right, it was mentioned that we could actually do just the girls or just the boys, that this was not an all or nothing thing.
That is correct.
And then I also understood from listening to the parents and the coaches that our ability to compete against the larger schools, especially in the girls level, where there's no division of school size, it would give us a greater opportunity in competitions to actually showcase our students.
Yep.
And I just wanted to mention that.
Oh, thank you. One other additional item that I failed to mention that is not on the immediate horizon, but potentially one of the things that was mentioned at the state wrestling meet was the possibility of going from a 3-class boys tournament to a 2-class boys, which kind of changes some of the dynamics across the state, as what we saw in a number of the weight classes for the boys were not weight classes filled out even at the state level, at the state tournament. There were some brackets that were incomplete because there just weren't enough participants from around the state to fill those brackets in certain classes. And of course, as correct as a straw poll is, the majority of coaches were in favor of moving to the 2-class system. Now, that wouldn't be something that would happen next year or even the year after, but possibly that next reorganization time period. Other comments from those, or questions, or anything as board members that you feel kind of something, hey, has this been talked about? Has this been thought about? We are certainly open. This is an open conversation, and again, I really appreciated the openness of those community members that attended last week's meeting, because it is one of those that there's a lot of things that we've kind of looked at. We have 7 different programs being shared currently in the county, but this would be the first time that we would ever take something that has been more or less independent and put it into a combination. And that's the reason for having a lot more conversation than we have for just starting a program. Now, we had a similar conversation, I don't know if it was 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was 4, when Southeast and Lingle combined for their wrestling program.
This meeting, but I guess one thing that I'd like to see, or is in my mind care of, is like just from the specific programs, like the coaches and the admin from each specific school, like their ideas maybe after every season to say, like, based on our upcoming numbers, we do or we don't think we can maintain our program. You know, if a certain program has 4 kids or something, whatever the number is, just their opinion on being able to maintain the program based strictly on numbers and maybe finances of the building or whatnot. It would just help me be able to make a numbers and data decision rather than kind of strictly emotion. It's kind of how I feel we made the last wrestling decision, was a lot based around emotions. So that's just what I'd like to see, one difference.
Thank you. That is very pertinent.
Mr. Kramer, I do know too that one of the things that came up was the topic of, you know, why can't we just borrow someone's open shop or empty building or what have you? How do you want members of the public to bring that to your attention if they do have those ideas?
You know, I would be more than welcome to have them email me, give me a call at the office. We are open to any ideas. Not all ideas have been investigated. We have a very intelligent community that is interested in maintaining as much wrestling as we possibly can. There are some barriers to those easy ones that we think of, you know, add on more space, you know, always comes up. If that were an option in the state of Wyoming to add more square footage to a building, that would have been one that we would go through. But because of the way we are structured in relation to adding square footage, and every one of our buildings actually has already too much square footage, we're even unable to add any square footage even for a wrestling room.
And that's because there's a formula, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
For the number of enrolled students, it's based on the square footage for each building, and parts of that building that are include gyms and cafeterias and wrestling rooms are combined into that square footage formula.
Is that it on that, on the wrestling?
That is everything for
Okay,
me.
perfect. Next, we'll move on to committee reports by board members. Does anyone from the District Activity Advisory Council or DAC have anything they'd like to add or discuss? Wrestling? You've been talking about wrestling? Okay.
Exactly.
Salary Relations Committee. Anybody want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, we hit the easy button. Actually, salary relations is interesting because it's an all-day affair, so it takes quite a bit of time, and yet it's probably one of the more enjoyable things I do on this board is working with those folks. So I just wanted to thank them again for another successful trip through salary relations, and I enjoyed working with each and every one of them thoroughly. Thank you.
Anyone else from Salary Relations want to add anything? So tonight, just for the public's information, we will be discussing the specifics when the board is asked to approve the proposal of the salary relations piece. But I too would like to thank all of those members. I especially would like to thank Marcy. She has worked very, very, very hard to keep chasing this moving target of recalibration and continues to do so. I'm just always grateful that she hasn't quit or left the country yet, because it's been a lot. It's been a lot. These pieces keep moving. Decisions keep being changed and things added, things taken away. And these are big subjects. These are insurance, these are salaries, benefits, like they're big subjects, and so to have to have Marcy chasing that constantly right up into the last second when we enter into salary relations is very, very difficult. But I'm very grateful for the conversations that we have in salary relations and the work that goes into it. It's a little bit more than just a day. I would say that it's months leading up to it of Marcy crunching numbers and getting the information for us and then bringing the package to us to discuss. And it's a great group of people. And the committee itself just works really, really well. So anybody want to add anything from policy committee?
Madam Chair, I would be happy to. Policy committee met on April 6th, and we did not go over an actual policy, but what we went over was the communication plan. And this is a document entitled, well, it is not a policy, and it's not required to come to the board, so it is not in our packet.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's it. That's interesting. But it is a communication plan that's going to be entered into our parent handbook that'll go out in each one of the schools. And it's communications, everything from internal, external, crisis communication. It gives the parents something to look at in order to figure out where they should be going next. Communications preferred method, the order in which they should communicate as to where they should start, with their teacher, principal, superintendent, that type of structure to help communication and increase that communication and get it to the right spots. So I think it's about 5 pages long. And it was definitely worth going over, I thought. I'm not sure if Sarah or Chris has anything to add.
I have forwarded to trustee chairs a list or additional policies from WSBA for that committee to consider. There was mention on a chair roundtable, a deadline to do that. I don't see that in the email that I forwarded, but maybe reach out to them. Okay, well, in fairness to you, I just got it today again, so I did forward that to you to share with the committee. But anything else on policy? Okay. Reports on school building information and events by board liaisons. Who would like to start? Okay, trustee chairs.
So I had the pleasure of meeting with Mr. Daly and his staff a couple of times. I went yesterday, saving things for the last minute. Most of the discussion was centered around Leader in Me. That's a big focus for all of our schools. And they have 3 action teams at their schools currently. A leadership team that's working on Title I, reading through music. And they are also leading the PE warm-ups at LaGrange, because at LaGrange, everybody wears multiple hats. I don't know how they do it all, but they do it all very well. They have another action team that is academic. They are focused on the WIGs, their wildly important goals. They check progress. So these are student-led action teams. So the students are checking the progress on the WIGs. They picked out the prizes for testing at the end of the year, and they're organizing the scoreboards that are in the hallways at school as well. And they're already starting to plan for next year, and they work on portfolios as well. Sorry, my notes are hard for me to follow. And then their final action team is culture. Currently, they're working on an ABC countdown, which sounds like a lot of fun for the end of school. They're doing ABC days for all of the last day of school. So today was Mr. Daly Day, and I would like to see pictures of all of the kiddos dressed up like Mr. Daly. And they also talked about how their kids want more action teams. So they're working on getting more teams going in their buildings and different things the kids would like to see doing. And I just think it's really phenomenal to see the kids have such a hand-on approach to their learning and such a phenomenal staff leading that. I also found out that they were incubating chickens. So I made them show me their little eggs and candle them in the back. It was pretty amazing. And that is about it.
Fantastic. Anyone else that didn't get an opportunity last time to present? Trustee Strube?
Yes.
See you reaching for your mic.
Yeah. So I went to Lingle today, so I beat you in the waiting till the last minute. Sorry. It's not.
I'm sorry, administrators.
I know. Sorry. But I've never been in the elementary school in Lingle, so that was really awesome. I had some fifth graders that gave a tour, and they were training fourth graders at the same time that they were giving me their little tour. So that was really cool. Like you said, a lot of things focused around Leader and Me, but just around the whole school, like an emphasis on goal setting and being accountable. And then also what I really liked was all of the different mission statements for the different grade levels. And I talked to them about how they developed them. And I think what I understood was that they had kind of like developed individual mission statements or goals, and then over time had come together as a class or a grade to put those together. So that was really cool. And they were posted either in the classroom or outside of the classroom. So that was really fun. And then I also liked, they were telling me about kind of like portfolios that they had put together. And so my daughter is in fifth grade in Torrington. And so I was kind of like comparing some things, right? And so I had asked them if they had been able to share that information and their wins, right, with their parents, and they had said yes. And during the student-led parent-teacher conferences that they had been sharing those. So, and student-led parent-teacher conferences are my favorite. So I'm glad that that they get to kind of choose what they want to share with the people that they want to make proud. So it was really nice. So thank you.
Great. Has everybody had an opportunity to speak with your schools the second time or what have you? Does anybody want to add anything from your second visit or second discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd be happy to.
Sure.
I was able to attend a work session with at the Torrington High School. They are working on transitioning, I believe it's a new spring program that they have going on, and they are working with the eighth graders to transition them into the high school setting. And so they had previously already worked with the eighth graders to get them to pre-register for their upcoming classes. And I believe they have the ability to change some of those classes because they are registering early. And they also had an event held with the parents and the students, in which they went over different requirements, such as graduation requirements, Hathaway scholarship requirements, credit and class selection, and those kinds of things, and the number of credits it takes. They went over their GPA information on how important that was in high school. And they also talked about a Club Rush event that they're going to be holding, in which they will introduce the students to encourage them to participate in the like student council, FFA, sports, National Honor Society. So they are working very hard to transition these kids into the high school setting and to get them up and running and ready for their freshman year in the high school. So that was I thought it was a great program as well. Very well received, very well attended. And I was very happy to just sit back and listen to what was going on. The staff did a great job. And I was
Fantastic.
very impressed. I also wanted to let you know that as of today, the 9th and 10th grade at the Torrington High School are setting for their Y-tops. And they will also be doing I think they did their ELAs today, and tomorrow they're going to be doing math, and Tuesday they will be doing science, I believe it was, and the 9th grade will be doing writing, I believe it is. So so that is going on at the school. So if you see something a little bit different going on at the high schools, because there are different things going on.
Great.
All these testings. Now, Mr. Principal Van Tilburg also we were very excited to hear he's been running the numbers for attendance and discipline data, comparing it from this year to last year. And our attendance data is 21% less absentees than there was last year at this time. That is a great increase. I mean, a great decrease, improvement in the number of students that are staying in school instead of being absent. And he also has 44% less discipline issues from last year to this year at the same time period. So those were amazing numbers, I thought, for a 1 year period. And as we all know, if the students aren't in the seats, they're not learning. So these were amazing things to happen. And I know that the staff has been working hard, and the students themselves, to meet these numbers. So that the behavior data, he has 47% less in-school suspensions from this year to last year. And there are 54% less out-of-school suspensions from this year to last year. These are all amazing improvements. And I just think that the staff and the students should be recognized, as well as the principal, for what they've accomplished.
Great. Great work. I will go last. I didn't have an opportunity last time. We kind of ran out of time. But I had PRS, and I admitted to Ms. Maxey and her students. I feel really bad because I didn't fully grasp what PRS was until I walked through those doors. I hope each and every one of you gets the opportunity. It's incredible. It is an experience and it's a vibe. It definitely is. The way that it's set up, the way that they interact with each other, it's pretty incredible. It really is. You know, to meet students and spend just a couple hours with them, and every single one of them hugging me when I left was an experience. Ms. Maxey's back there dodging me. But it was fantastic. You know, PRS is a school of choice. It's different by design. And that is very, very obvious when you spend just a little bit of time there. They do things differently. But as Ms. Maxey kept, reminding me, and I could see with my own eyes, the kids choose to be there. And I think that that's why it's a different vibe. You know, there's school spirit. I mean, you can feel school spirit, but this is different. This is deeper. They want to be there. They want to encourage each other. They want to be doing the things that they're doing, and you can feel it. It's palpable. It's pretty cool. When I was there the first time, they were charting their own data and gave me an earful about how they didn't love that, but that it kept them, made them accountable, right? And showed them where they had needed to improve and the things that they were doing good. And so that was really incredible to watch. I also got to witness their Leader in Me action teams as well. And that was part of that charting of the data. You know, I asked Ms. Maxey how Leader in Me is working when you've got just such a small school, and a lot of what was added was it's just adding structure and it's adding details. They're still doing a lot of the things that they were doing. It's just kind of having that additional structure. Next year, I think if I got this right, they're applying for the action teams instead of the action teams being assigned. And that's just the cool thing too about PRS is like those kids decide what they do and how they do it, and it's pretty cool. They're also starting a yearbook, and that is purely student driven, and a student council. So they've got about 10 members, which is about half the kids. If anybody wants to contribute, the kids are raising money by gathering money to pie Ms. Maxey and Mrs. Kramer in the face. So they would probably gladly take donations for that, but that all goes towards the yearbook and student council. I think the prices she listed were a little pricey for that to me, but just saying, if you wanted to help the kids, that'd be great. Their motto there is this self-discipline and taking initiative. And that was very obvious to me with these kids and my interactions with them. They get to kind of choose their pace. They really were using each other as resources, but you know, a couple of the kiddos work And so they're able to have that flexible schedule. It was pretty incredible to watch. Ms. Maxey also mentioned to me that they are working on becoming a lighthouse leader, which is where other schools will look to them as to do the, how to do things. That's pretty incredible in and of itself. I think the biggest thing too that Ms. Maxey and I talked about was, we have 4 high schools in this district, right? And I think very often PRS is overlooked as one of those high schools, and they are doing some really incredible stuff up there. They do have a monthly interest meeting. So the next one is on May 6th. There's an interview process. It's a process to get into PRS, but man, it's a cool place up there. They're doing some really great stuff. So that's that. Out of interest of time, we'll move on. There are a lot of new faces in the audience tonight, so I'm not quite sure if you're aware. There are yellow slips sitting on the table if you intend to speak during public comment, and you can just bring those up to Ms. Fritzler. Do we have any yellow slips? No. Okay. Any interest in anybody speaking on public comment? Okay. Having no takers, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. First being the 25-26 SY student enrollment numbers.
I'll just share my screen again.
Oh, wait, can I do something real quick before we move on? I totally forgot. Sorry.
You're good. I'm just.
We need new assignments for new schools. Sorry, and I forgot to do that. So for next time, PRS is going to be Sarah Chairs. Southeast will be Dylan. LFL will be Kate. Trail will be Kelly. Lincoln will be Wade. I'll let him know. LaGrange will be Chris. TMS middle school is Val. THS is Tony. Sorry, Val, you got both Torringtons. I really did use the Wheel of Fortune thing. And then what I will do is I will touch base with Mr. Gilchrist and Mr. Williams to talk about the Southeast Elementary and LFL Elementary, just to kind of split that up. Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
You're fine. It allowed me to get back to where I wanted to get to, so it worked just fine. Okay. Just a quick update on enrollment numbers. Scrolling up here. Green indicating either a same average daily membership from the previous month, yellow indicating a slight decline, and red is 5 or more. You can see LaGrange, Lingle, LFL Elementary, all slight increases. Middle school, a slight decrease. Lincoln Elementary, a slight decrease. Southeast Elementary, a slight decrease. Southeast High School remained the same. Southeast Junior High, slightly up. Trail Elementary, slightly down. And Torrington High School, slightly down. TMS, slightly down. And when I'm saying slightly, it's under 5 student equivalent numbers. With the grand total for both, you could see actually a slight decline also in PRS. I didn't get that color coded, of 6 students. The 1570 from the previous month was very similar. No real, because of the numbers in the buildings, there's nothing very specific around any significant movements, but just some variables that we see throughout the year. And then my next item is current staffing. Right now, we have a couple of internal openings. We do have a special education teacher at Trail Elementary, a head custodian at Southeast Schools, another custodian full-time at Southeast, custodian at Torrington High School, and a secondary math position at Torrington Middle School. Currently, we have done a really good job so far this school year of fulfilling our teaching positions with that early head start that we had in December for some early resignations. That's allowed us to get ahead of the curve. Typically by April, this is where we have a few more than just 2 openings. So very pleased with what we have filled so far going into the next school year. The last item that I had was the insurance claim on the central administration gym roof. That was from our windstorm that affected that building. Was the only one significantly affected. That and I guess the backside of the sign, the scoreboard at the on the football field with a fabric sign that's on the back there. That also was something we'll have to work on. But appreciate the maintenance staff's work on that to close the skylights, and so they're working on that in that process to get that finished up. But we are in good shape related to that gym roof. We were able to actually get back in there in the very next week. So it was not out of service for very long.
Great.
Anything to add there, Marcy, or that I missed?
What we have right now is was just an emergency fix. We will be in the process once the skylights get installed of the permanent fix to the roof.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next is consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull any of the agenda items? Okay, doesn't look like anyone's interested in that. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda is adopted. Next is new business. Consider approval of contracting for district health insurance coverage for the 26-27 school year. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And so for discussion, this is part of what we're going to be considering, I understand, as our packet, and this is approving the contracting for the 26-27 school year to provide employees with health, dental, and vision insurance. Any discussion or questions? Good. Okay. All those in favor of approving the contracting for district health insurance coverage for the 26-27 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I need to hit something differently on that, Mike. We have trustee Strampy's working, but I don't know that we have any of the others.
Oh.
That's right. It was the,
Oh,
I thought it was the 3 buttons. Thank you, sir.
sorry, I didn't hit mine either. Ah, Mike, it's too much. Just for the public to know, we have a yes, abstain, and no that we can hit when we vote. And so you can vote verbally and this, and you just need to yell at us when we're not doing it. All right, next is to consider approval of district employees' salary and benefits compensation proposal for the 26-27 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? As part of our discussion, I mean, Marcy, would you like me to present just the proposal in writing? Is it better that you do it? It's probably better that you do it. I'm going to punt that to you. Do you want to just talk about like the numerical ones where it talks about what's being proposed as far as the package itself? Okay, perfect. You can probably summarize it better than me. Brief. Yeah, get on it, Marcy.
What we had, if you look at the cost page, we were working this year with an instructional silo and a non-instructional silo. So we were working with 2 different pots of money. We were able to zero out the instructional silo, which really was a goal to show the legislature that we had full intent of spending out the dollars provided in that silo.
Mhm.
We did honor steps and lanes, which is pretty much what we like to do first each year. We then increased certified staff base. We increased it by 5.5%. That increase was a result of the recalibration legislation mandating that districts calculate their average teacher salary versus the model average teacher salary and get the two to align, or if you're already aligning, to increase by 10%. So 5.5% was needed. We took our certified base to $60,000. As a district, we do have a salary schedule for administrators as well, and extra duty. That all just flowed through.
So Marcy, are some districts going to see like a bigger increase in their base salary than the 5.5%?
We are already seeing in the media where some are seeing double digits.
Okay.
And that's a result of them having lower bases on their schedules. That as a district, we've done a very good job. And Mr. Kramer shared a couple of different times kind of the history of our base and what we've done. So as a district, I think we should be very proud that we were already very much shrinking that gap that was needed to get that average teacher salary where the recalibration wanted it to be.
Okay, I just want to make that very clear to the staff. Like when you see things in the media about, huge increases, it's because they were so far behind. Goshen County did not have that issue. So that's why Goshen County's is a 5.5%. And I think, Mr. Kramer, you even had some historical data that kind of showed the raises that we've given every year. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I was just bringing that up. If you want to, I'll have actually numbers here in just a second. 'Cause I
Perfect.
didn't have that up, but I will get that here in a moment.
Okay, so Marcy, if you want to keep going, but I just want to make that really clear, like, that's why. And part of that is I don't want there to be more confusion. We had that 8.5% issue earlier this year. And again, it's just like, it's a misunderstanding or not understanding the information itself. So Goshen County has actually done pretty well as far as salaries. I want to make it really clear too, that this 5.5% is a mandate. Like they removed local control. They removed our ability as salary relations to make those decisions on our own. So this was something that we were told to do.
So in addition to the certified schedule, we also increased the classified schedule. We took the base there from $17 and some odd cents to $18.65. That was a 97-cent increase, which was 5.5%. We kind of followed that same theme throughout. You just approved the insurance coverage, and what we've done there is we'll stay with WEPT from July through December, and then January 1 we'll move to the state health plan. That we found it advantageous to fund the retiree subsidy through the Wyoming State Insurance Plan. And in doing so, we're able to offer some additional deductible options to our employees that through WEPT, our 16% increase was just not allowing us to provide those options to employees. We are looking at the classified schedule, and we moved the cooks and accompanists from lane 51 to 52. We felt like it was just important to look at that lane 51, move those folks over, and provide them a little bit more compensation, as well as adding a floater cook to the food service program. Food service has really struggled throughout this year with being able to fill positions, and hoping that this floater sub will help with that, as well as increasing the compensation for the cooks in the district. And then lastly, we did have some appeals on the classified schedule. There were 3 tech positions and a maintenance position that those appeals were granted subject to this approval and the appropriate lane movement. So as a district, we are looking at a $600,000 negative effect on cash reserves. As we talked through with the work session before, we did put $475,000 into the budget to replace cameras on the buses. As you recall, that would be reimbursable transportation. We would see that money next year. So if you're looking at it in that way, it's only $125,000 shortfall. Our cash reserves would go to just shy of $3.6 million at 12.47%.
I'm going to share my screen to just kind of give some information related to there. This is the classified base from 2017 to now adding 26, 27. That base has risen since that time, $8.40, or percentage wise, a 54% increase. The other number that I had to the right kind of gets askew because of the different recalibration piece here. But prior to this, we had been receiving an external cost adjustment, which is the dollars flowing through, of 34%. So as you can see, in relation to where other districts might be seeing a 25% increase on base, if you were to stay at that 34, you can see why they needed to come up 20%. With our 5.5%, we have actually increased our base by 54% in that area, to where the board over the years since 2017 has done some things to make sure that employees stayed afloat and ahead of where the ECA was provided by the legislature. In the certified side of things, it was a 32% increase over that time period. And so inflation has been at 34%. And then our ECA was at 18% over that time period. Again, that's not a necessarily accurate number because the recalibration number in there, so it isn't a perfect comparable. But you can see why, if a district was having to hold directly to that ECA, where their base wasn't able to keep up, well, now there was this piece of the silo dollars coming in and needing to get to that average, to where you would see some districts having to put significant funds towards there. It is my hope that the majority of districts are able to zero out their instructional silo. The one thing that I would use some caution in is that we were able to have that 5.5% of instructional silo, but because the legislature has taken that control out of the board's hands in relation to all those positions outside of the silo, this creates a big challenge for boards across the state, because going forward, we're going to have to make some very difficult decisions as whether those people within the silo are going to have a significantly higher percentage increase versus those people outside of the silo. That has been something that, as long as I've been in administration, we've been very cautious about giving certain groups significant increases versus other groups. What this new legislation is going to require us to do is make those decisions and to say, no, you as this group of teachers are going to be held higher, so we need to increase your salaries, where all the other positions, or many of the other positions, not all, because other positions are included in that silo, but there are positions outside of that silo that possibly will not have those increases. And those positions that are outside of there are pretty significant to the operations, maintenance, administration, secretaries. Anything that is deemed not instructional in nature is outside of that silo. And so that will be very problematic and challenging. One of the other pieces that I do want to highlight is our change over to the state insurance plan. And that is something that definitely, based on where we've been at, was needed financially, and a difficult decision to make. We've been very happy with the services that were provided by WEP, but unfortunately, due to the percentage increases over the years, our funding hasn't matched that ability to be able to afford our employees that option. You can see, and I'm going to enlarge that a little bit, where, because the state plan has funded all insurance programs across the state, it's really interesting because I have never seen a 0% increase go for that long. And so I think there's some things there that call into question what that is going to look like in the future. I appreciate the fact that over that year, and I hope, since we're adding to that plan, that for the next 6 years, it looks exactly like that. I hope there's an ability to maintain that 0% increase. But as you can see with the WEPT piece that has gone up significantly, and with the change from funding all employee insurance to only employees who will be taking the insurance, and that being a drastic difference, what was sometimes referred to as ghost employees in that funding. When that funding went away, it really 100% takes our ability to actually be in a free market. We have no ability to afford those things. It was something given to us because of where that funding lies. There's no way for us as a district to maintain those increases and to make those choices and have those employees make those choices on which programs. The free market and insurance for us is gone. It has been chosen for us. We will go with the state program. I think I'm hopeful, as we've heard from many people in the state program, that there are a lot of positives. But quite honestly, the insurance piece is very, very challenging and something I'm just excited to move to the state program for not having to deal with the very significant fluctuations in the increases. And I'm hopeful as districts possibly have to make that next decision also, that funding allows us to maintain in that pool of people that are moving in across the state into that program, that it remains as powerful as it currently is. Those are my highlights for where we're at. Are there any questions for either Marcy or I related to?
What are your thoughts on sustainability? Are we going to be able to sustain?
I had a principal ask me that just this afternoon, actually.
I didn't plant that question.
No,
I
no,
promise.
you actually didn't. I'm of course always with any of the finances worried anytime we're having to dip into our reserves. Do I feel that we're in a position right now to where that percentage at 12.47% where I can still feel confident? Yes, I think we're doing our due diligence in not carrying over too much. I think we're appropriately spending those taxpayer dollars on the appropriate things to provide a quality program. I do worry in the future. I don't know what ECAs are going to look like. If I go back to the ECAs of the past, that's concerning. I mean, anytime you have 0% and we're riding that fine line of where the silo is, we've zeroed out the instructional silo. If next year the legislature decides there is no ACA, we don't have an option. We can't give steps. We can't get years of experience. We can't give lanes of experience. That will shut us down with that average. So it is extremely important that we look at an ECA at the bare minimum in the instructional silo and as expected outside of the instructional silo to be able to appropriately stay with inflation. Because even with our increases and our, patting ourselves on the back, we still haven't stayed with inflation. And so that's a problematic thing also for many of our people as we look ahead with some of this and the challenges that exist. Now, do I believe financially as a district that we are in a much more stable position than many other districts across the state? Absolutely. Do I feel there will be absolute significant changes in the coming couple of years if the instructional silo framework stays the way it is and those outside of the instructional framework stay that way? Yeah. I think, and it'll be very interesting to see how hopefully either in the interim or during the next session, some of those questions get answered.
Okay. Any further questions, concerns? Okay. All those in favor of approving the district employee salary and benefits compensation proposal for the 26-27 school year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of offering teaching contracts, renewal of initial contract teachers, and offering annual employment agreements for the 26-27 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, with no discussion, We'll ask all those in favor of approving the teacher contracts, the renewal of the initial contract teachers, and the annual employment agreements, please signify by saying aye.
Sorry. Come on.
Maybe it's like I went to hit it. and-
You're good. Sorry.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is to consider acceptance of certified staff resignation as presented. This is sad, but this is the resignation of the Fort Laramie or Lingle Fort Laramie High School math teacher, Mike Lashley, which will be effective at the end of the school year. May I have a motion?
So moved.
If we don't make a motion, does he get to resign? I'm kidding.
Unfortunately, this is, yeah.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of accepting Mr. Lashley's resignation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is to consider approval of offering teaching contracts for the 26-27 year. So this includes contracts to Ashlyn Schreiber as an English teacher at TMS, Emily Harris as the 6th grade English teacher at TMS, and to Wyatt Hole as a math teacher at THS for the 26-27 year. All of these are pending certification. Can I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the teaching contracts as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of appointing district representative to the school risk retention program, and the appointment is for business manager Marcy Cates. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
Madam Chair, just a quick definition of what that is, just for folks who don't know what school risk retention program
Ms.
is.
Cates?
Madam Chair, members of the board, school risk retention is who we receive our property casualty insurance through. So each district who is a member has the opportunity to have an individual sitting on the board, of which the board is involved in making decisions.
Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of appointing Ms. Cates as the district representative to the school risk retention program, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of contracting with Frontline Education for subscription renewal and addition of programs. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Okay, and for discussion purposes, this is for the renewal of the subscription and the addition of new human resource onboarding program central solution and new job posting and application program applicant tracking with proactive recruiting. And this is in the total amount of $42,054.24. Mr. Derby, you want to give us a brief overview of what that is? Oh, Holly might? Where is Holly? I was just seeing if you're awake.
The sweat running.
Right? He's like, was I supposed to talk? Do you mind coming to the mic just so that those online can hear you, Ms. Lara? Sorry to put you on the spot.
And the two add-ons, in order throughout the state of our United States, these two audit, this will allow us to shout that process, as well as it's integrated with front. For us, it's a so what pushes that out.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Lara while she's there? Thank you, appreciate that. So with that, all of those in favor of contracting with Frontline Education for subscription renewal and addition of programs, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is consider the approval of contracting for in-district certified staff professional development. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. This is approving the contracting with Glorimer, Skips, and Elizabeth Amato for in-district professional development services on APL instructional strategies, August 11th through the 12th, in the amount of $7,000 per person for a total amount of $14,000. And this comes from Title II funds. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I put Mr. Van Tilburg on the spot? Because I understand he's got some experience with APL and maybe could explain some of the features.
Superintendent that had been exposed to APL while he was out in Northeast Nebraska. He got to know these folks very well. I know Mr. Kramer, is your district out in Iowa also APL?
That is correct, yes.
So a bunch of us went to training in Wakefield, Nebraska. We got exposed to APL from the district, and we decided that we wanted to bring them into us to train us. And we brought APL in, and within the first year, our test scores dramatically improved, so much so that we went from a persistently low achieving school district in the state to one of the top 10 turnaround schools in the state with our test scores. So my history with that then turned into, I became known as, I guess, the APL Nazi in our district. Some of that was from my school where I did a bunch of walkthroughs related to APL. That was kind of my job as an assistant principal, as well as the discipline. And then later on moved to Latin America, as many of you know, and South America, and have done a lot of consulting with schools in Colombia, Mexico City, and other places. And all the schools have thrived with APL, not only with instructional strategies, but also with classroom management. So in my role at Torrington High as the principal, we brought these strategies in. My teachers haven't had formal training, but we've done a lot of work in our professional development with instructional strategies, and they've watched me model them in our staff meetings. And to their credit, they've done what I've asked them to do, and we've seen a lot of growth with our test scores and with our behavior, as you heard tonight from Val. So as we brought some of this to the table with our guiding coalition in the district, they've had a chance, our teachers and our administrators, to see it. Some have been to our building to see how it's being implemented and used. And so really what APL is a collection, Mr. Goulart, of strategies that are research-based, largely built around providing students with repetition and learning. So some of the strategies, for example, at the beginning of class would be bell ringer. A bell ringer would be spiraling back to previously taught information that's going to appear on Y-top tests or ACT tests that we want to continue to build repetition for learning. I mean, learning isn't rocket science. If you look at brains research, the more we repeat things, the more we learn. So bell ringer would be a part of it. Posting and verbalizing the agenda for the class, posting and verbalizing the learning objectives or outcomes for the class, checking for understanding, going back and doing turn-in talks or random checks or volunteer checks with students, and then finishing up class with closure, again, which is going back to your lesson objectives, and then providing more repetition for students with learning. So it's really built around brain research. A lot of what John Hattie's research, who's probably the world-renowned researcher right now on instruction and what works best in the classroom for student learning, APL fits very well with. And I personally have done approximately 12,000 walkthroughs in my time as an administrator of almost 20 years, about 20 years. And the research that I have on it is that it's highly successful if we're, consistent with it. And it also provides a common language within a building and within a school district for, a bell ringer, an agenda, objective. Kids start to understand what that is and what the expectations are and how those things should look. So it helps with That from a student perspective, but also with teachers on how to build a lesson from the beginning of the class to the middle and to the end of the lesson. So I don't know if that was enough. Do you have any other questions? I would be happy to answer more.
Thank you, sir. You caught my attention when you said, or when you mentioned the improvement in Y-top scores. I didn't go into a discussion about the meeting I had with Mr. Flourishing this week, but that was actually one of the topics we discussed was the phenomenon of having kids that are excelling by every metric, Ames Web, their schoolwork, their just overall performance. And then for some of them, there seems to be a disconnect when they get to Y-top. So would you anticipate that maybe this might be part of filling in that gap between the students that we know are performing well because we're measuring them, but it doesn't necessarily come across in Y-top?
Well, I could show you, I don't have, the slide with me. I showed it during our guiding coalition. It came directly from the Nebraska Department of Education. When we implemented APL Alliance, you could see year 1, year 2, and you could see the consistent growth each year with English, ELA, reading, math. I can show you this year how we've grown with our star ratings from August to Christmas time approximately. We haven't seen our star yet because we'll give those in about 2 weeks. I can show you what our scores were last year and how we performed, well across the board, not only at the state level with our 9th grade math, with our 10th grade ELAs, and how we performed within the district and how we competed with everyone quite nicely in the district. So where in the past the scores had been, substantially lower. So I mean, can I sit here and tell you tonight that you're going to see all this amazing stuff? I would like to. I can't guarantee you something that I don't have control over. But what I can tell you is that I've seen and experienced in Alliance, as well as the schools in Latin America that I've worked with, as well as here at Torrington High. We are faithful to this and committed to this, and the fidelity is there. We're going to see good things. See really good things.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, the only thing I'd like to add from talking to Mr. Van Tilburg this morning, or this afternoon, I guess it was, wasn't it? Was, from what I understood, this was going to be a uniform across the school districts. And I believe that would be a very good benefit as well. I believe he maybe covered that, but I wanted to make sure everybody understood that this was, and I believe it would help our staff, our subs, everybody coming across into our districts to fill in. So,
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I include
Sure.
one thing too? Just so you know, for clarity, I think this is kind of in the memo that you guys have in front of you, but this is also just for the framework. It's a framework, as Mr. Van Tilburg explained. This is just for the beginning of that training. It is rather large, and opposed to having our staff drink through a fire hose. This is going to be the beginnings of it, and this will take place over a series of years. So not like all in one, just this coming fall, just so that you're aware. In case you see this come back in subsequent years, there will be additional pieces that we layer in over the course of time.
Mr. Derby, was that your way of greasing the wheels for when you ask us for more money for this?
Maybe,
Just
but
teasing.
also to be transparent of why are we doing this again?
Sure.
So
Yeah, I appreciate that. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving contracting for in-district certified staff professional development for the APL instructional strategies, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Again, we're going to table I and go to the next one, which is consider approval of purchase of chairs and cart for THS per district policy 3420. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Thank you. This is to approve the purchase of 75 chairs and a cart chair holder for THS in the amount of $12,108. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of making this purchase of chairs and cart for THS, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of contracting for new district phone system per district policy 3420. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? And this is to contract with Go2 Connect for district-wide VoIP phone services with a one-time hardware and activation cost of $15,361.18, and then a monthly fee of $4,807.33. Any discussion?
Madam Chair. I've had an opportunity to talk to Marcy and Superintendent Kramer. And I just wanted to note that I had requested to find out what our current system was and that we were using two different systems. I believe Granite and EECS was the two systems that our multiple schools are using. And that from what I understand, the monthly fees we pay out is approximately $1,500 a month less than what this is going to be. But I believe they can talk to the advantages of what this system will give us. So I'll let them do that.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Sharp. Mike, would you be able to add anything to some of the features that will be expanded on, and then also the equipment features that were the sales behind this, and possibly the reasons? Yeah. Probably go up there. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Unless you have a mic back there.
Yeah, if you want to take the mic back there, you can. Right.
Yeah, so we get, first of all, compliance with currently lacking in. Big one being Carrie's Law, where you don't have to dial 9 to get an outside line. That's important in situations where I can. So currently our system lacks. Have to pick up the phone, dial 9, then you can dial. So that's the big push. Other benefits we get direct numbers for administrators. The system can extend past the desk, meaning that push of a button desk phone, it can transfer the call to their cell phone. So not at their desk, they're still accessible. Whether they want to be your to all you know, voicemail goes to email. It's a lot more accessible. We get some video conferencing stuff with it as well. There's a ton of extra benefits. It could actually get into our bells speakers if we currently have a system that pay for expense costs, expenses to save some money. This could take over that. So a lot of flexibility system like this. Specific questions I can.
No, and feel free to add to any of this that I can, you know, what the biggest piece was when we moved away from the copper lines, because there's no longer, those lines are no longer being maintained. And so as we were making that transition from what is referred to the POTS lines or copper lines, we went with a company that was very early on, because we knew that our phone systems were actually, even at that time, already failing. And how long we've been on? 5 years or 4?
Great.
Yeah, 3. Gosh, it seems longer than that.
That's my very first year.
That was the first year?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. It seems like
remembers it.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, he remembers it because it has been challenging. It has been a challenging system to work with. And we were probably a little bit larger than what those capabilities and needs were. And we've seen some of those challenges over the last 3 years. And as Mike has done the research with this, and I greatly appreciate it, we're getting a very high quality product with a lot of other features and things that we're going to be addressing that address the emergency notification systems and some of the other pieces that are really important for making sure we have the ability to maintain our phone systems.
Yeah.
And as many of you have seen on Facebook over the years, there have been times in which our phone systems have been down at different locations. And so this will assist in addressing those needs.
Any more questions for Mike? Thank you, sir. With that, all those in favor of approving the contracting for the new district phone system per district policy 3420, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of the 26-27 district virtual education handbook. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Pretty self-explanatory. All right. All those in favor of approving the 26-27 district virtual education handbook, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is consider censure of board for violation of board leadership governance. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a prepared statement to explain what this is about. Censuring is a serious action taken against a member of a governing board, and it is not something that we should ever consider taking lightly. As a board, we initially attempted to address this matter internally. However, I am disappointed to say that a member of this board shared emails containing confidential information with a member of the public, Bob Peterson. In doing so, that individual not only violated our board governance, specifically policy 1.5.12, which requires us to keep confidential matters confidential, but also violated Wyoming Statute 9-13-105, which prohibits the dissemination of non-public information obtained through one's role as a public official. Further, the dissemination of these emails enabled Mr. Peterson to file a formal complaint with the Wyoming Bar Association against Chairwoman Moeller. It is my understanding that this action was undertaken with malice and vindictiveness and with the apparent intent to cause personal harm to Chair Moeller rather than to address any legitimate concern. The Wyoming Bar Association reviewed the complaint and dismissed it without consideration as it lacked merit. This situation is deeply concerning, not only because of the breach of confidentiality, but because it represents a misuse of information that had nothing to do with the work of this board. The complaint filed was unrelated to school board governance and serves as an example of how these types of actions distract from the important work that we are elected to do. As board members, we are held to a higher standard. Our constituents not only expect that of us, but they demand it. Integrity, accountability, and trust are foundational to effective governance, and when those are compromised, it is our responsibility to respond in a way that reflects the seriousness of the breach. At our last meeting, we made a good faith effort to address this issue internally and to provide an opportunity for the party responsible to come forward. Unfortunately, that did not occur. Because we are unable to identify the individual responsible, I am recommending that we censure the board as a whole. I recognize that this is an unconventional approach. However, I believe it is necessary. We owe it to our community to acknowledge that a breach occurred, to make that acknowledgement part of public record, and to demonstrate that we take our responsibilities seriously. Censuring the board as a whole ensures transparency and affirms that as a governing board, we do not ignore actions that undermine public trust. While this action reflects the conduct of one, it also reflects our collective responsibility to uphold the standards of this board. When one of us fails to do so and refuses to take accountability, it becomes the responsibility of the board to act. Actions such as these, both the breach of confidentiality and the subsequent filing of a frivolous complaint, are distractions from the meaningful, honest work we are here to do. As a board, we must reject this type of behavior, both internally and from external influences, and remain focused on serving our students, staff, and community. Therefore, it is my recommendation that we formally censure the board for the actions that have occurred in the interest of transparency, accountability, and maintaining the trust of the community that we serve.
My thoughts are going to be kind of redundant after Trustee Steinbach's statement, but I think it's important that I go ahead with them. So this Board of Trustees, as well as the public that we serve, expect every member of this board to act with integrity, exercise sound judgment, and protect confidential information. These are not optional standards. They are fundamental responsibilities of this role. Trust was violated when confidential board email communications were shared with members of the public without authorization. This was a serious breach of duty. It undermines the board's ability to have honest discussions, damages working relationships, and puts the district at unnecessary risk. This conduct has real consequences for our district. Unauthorized disclosure of internal communications can compromise personnel matters, expose sensitive student or legal information, weaken the district's legal position, and erode public confidence in the board's ability to govern responsibly. It also creates confusion and misinformation in the community when partial or out of context information is shared. Transparency and confidentiality are not in conflict. They serve different and equally important purposes. This board is committed to transparency through open meetings, public records, and clear communication with the community. At the same time, board members are obligated to maintain confidentiality where required by law, policy, and ethical responsibility. Breaking confidentiality is not an act of transparency. It is a failure to uphold the rule's obligations. What happened here is not transparency. It is a gross misuse of a position on this board. This breached our board governance and then went beyond that to breach our state law. I would like to make it abundantly clear that this entire board is not at fault here. One or more board members made a conscious decision to share a confidential email, not a confidential email, multiple confidential emails with a member of the public, while the majority of this board is diligently working on the business of this district towards the goal that we should all be focused on, which is our students. I am optimistic that as a board, we will be able to do that work and quit wasting so very much time on the outside political mechanisms of people whose goals I genuinely do not understand, but am confident in saying that they are not what is best for the students and the staff of our district. The trustee who shared the emails opted not to confess, which is why it is being taken as an umbrella censorship. And I am only in favor of this action because it is the only action that we have available. And I really strongly feel that action needs to be taken due to the seriousness of this issue.
Any other discussion?
I'm super quick. I'm really not in favor of censoring the whole board. Specifically, I'd be in favor of it if we could add a couple members of the public to this censure. So I'm not really in favor of it because I think it's just a waste of time. I'll explain a little bit more of that in our next segment and topics of discussion.
Any further discussion? I'll be really honest with the board. I'm struggling with the notion of censuring the whole board. It was a minority, one or two, and not the entire board that behaved this way. I worry about sending the wrong message to the public that the board did anything wrong, because we didn't as a board. It was one or two, at most. There's a lot of pressure to do something about this because we are public elected officials, and I've been approached by many members of the public to do something about this. Because the emails, and we're talking 60 plus emails that were shared, some of them were very sensitive in information. There were names of employees or an employee, and one of which was a breach of attorney-client privilege on behalf of the district, with the individual that hired an attorney to take action against the school district. So that's really hard. That's a hard pill to swallow, right? Because it feels like something needs to be done. Unfortunately, because of the way the laws are written and so forth, censorship is the only thing available to us. I do know that I've been asked by members of the public, can we remove members of the board? And the answer is no, not to my knowledge. I think it takes an act of God to get that accomplished. So censorship is all we have, unfortunately. I agree with Trustee Hager to a certain extent. It's kind of a slap on the hand, and I don't know that it really achieves much other than to educate the public as to what's going on and the wrongdoings. The bar complaint against me was one thing. Hand gestures are not, Mr. Peterson. It is what it is. There is appropriate and there's inappropriate. But having said that, this is separate from the bar complaint. For me, the bar complaint and those attached emails just confirmed what I had suspected, right? And that emails and internal dealings on the board were being shared with the public. And it's just unfortunate. You know, the members of the public that have approached me and primarily our staff, because they feel like we can't be trusted as a board. I'm embarrassed of that. I really am. And it feels like they can't trust us with very sensitive topics and big things that are happening, right? When you're involved in things and you don't feel as though the individuals making decisions can, you know, keep it confidential, that's embarrassing. And frankly, not how we should be acting as a board. Having said that, I really struggle with censuring this entire board. I really do. It's shocking to me that no one will come forward and say, hey, this was me, because I really truly believe that, you know, the sunlight is a natural disinfectant. But the fact that no one will step forward puts us in a difficult position. So I will leave it at that. I feel like if I vote against it, I just want the board to know why. Because I really, truly don't feel like this entire board did anything wrong. And if we could hold the individuals accountable, then absolutely, but that's not what this achieves. So. Any further discussion? Trustee Sternbe?
Yeah, thanks. I think I just kind of want to speak in favor of censuring the board as a whole. Just the perspective that it is the I don't know, the most we can do, I guess, right? So like if we knew who it was, we could censure that individual. We don't, and so it's kind of like a step down from that, I guess. I think that it maybe draws a little bit of attention, right? It is at least like an attention getter. And hopefully if, you know, if that information is out there, people will like seek the context behind it, I guess. Whereas if we don't take any action, then it's just a discussion. So I think that would be my argument for actually taking action related to it. Like it goes into a vote, I guess.
Any further discussion? Okay. With that, all those in favor of censure of board for violation of board leadership governance, please signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Looks like we have 5, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, motion carries. So with that, do we need to prepare a statement as to the censorship publicly
We'll work with.
for the next meeting?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll work with our legal to do that. Okay, moving on to board topics for discussion. Does anyone have anything they'd like to discuss? Trustee Hager, did you have something you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, again, I'll make this super short too. I didn't know if I could address it under the last topic, that's why I did it here. And it's just really short and it's kind of a message to the public, just a few members of the public probably know who you are. Bob Peterson, Scott Smith, there's 2 of you, a couple others that I probably don't know. But I don't know an easy way to say it. I'm just really curious on what the unhealthy obsession is with our tiny little school district that you just want to completely and always try to dig up dirt. I haven't seen months and months of this. I mean, nobody's hiding behind any smoke and mirrors here. I mean, it's plumb obvious what you guys want to do. we don't know what it is. No one will come out and say, I mean, what your mission is. Bob, I mean, you're a military man. But you were on the board for what, couple of weeks, you decided to get off. But you still keep hanging around. I mean, nothing positive is coming about it. So Scott Smith, last board meeting, I walked through the hallway, I heard you pray. And I'll just kind of paraphrase it a little bit, what I heard. Your prayer was something about asking God to reveal the darkness within our school district. It just kind of boggles me. You sit there and pray that, but then come in here and support these kind of actions. So I'm just curious, you know, if either of you or anybody in that circle is willing to kind of step up, be a flippin' man and say, you know, what's your mission? What do you want trying to do here? Because really, your guys' support of a few members of this board, you're not doing them any favors at all. You guys aren't here behind closed doors. You're not in the discussions. And really, you're not helping these guys out at all. You're making their job a lot harder. So you can sit back there and smirk and smile all you want, but you know, it'd be nice to somebody to say, you know, in a positive light, what do you want? What can we do? What can we do to help you out? Some sort of solution, other than sneaking around. You guys are grown men. Not done with it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Trustee Hager. Any other topics anyone wants to discuss?
Madam
Trustee
Chair?
Stampy? Oh,
Do you want
Oh,
to
go
go
ahead.
first, Val?
go ahead, Trustee Sharp.
I just was going to bring up something had come out from the Wyoming Department of Education, and I was hoping that our school would be looking into it. Superintendent Degenfelder was launching a Wyoming Patriotic Schools to celebrate civic excellence for next year. And I was hoping that there would be some interest in our school that maybe would be looking into this in our district. And I have mentioned it to Superintendent Kramer, but I wanted to bring it up here at the board.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. I think too, we have WDE reps that will also bring it to us. So
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wanted to bring it to the public as well.
great. Thank you.
And I also wanted to congratulate the Torrington and Lingle Fort Laramie FFA group. They absolutely killed it. Absolutely killed it at state. So I was so very proud of them. Thank you.
Go ahead, Trustee Strampy.
Okay, thanks. So this past weekend, I was a delegate at the WEA, the Wyoming Education Association meeting. And I just wanted to share, so I'm a representative for Eastern Wyoming College. But, you know, most of the members are public educators. And so I got to see a lot of like different perspectives from around the state. And I just wanted to say, like, I think Goshen County is amazing. And I think, you know, when we talked about the double-digit increases that are happening to the base for other areas, you know, like they were so excited to see those. And I was so proud to know that I came from a district that had kept up fairly well, right, to where we didn't have to worry about that. And I just want to like thank this building, like the administrators and everyone for, I don't know, what I think and what appears to be really amazing management of our resources over the past little while, because I mean, this was exactly why I wanted to be on the board, was to know more about like what was happening so far. So I think I'm coming up on really like a year and a half, right? And I'm feeling more confident about things. And like I, you know, I'm not struggling all the time to understand. Anyways, I just wanted to say, overall, I'm loving this experience. And I think that we're really, really, really fortunate to be in this district. So thank you.
Thank you, trustee Strampy. Since it was mentioned about Lingle and Torrington's FFA, it's only fair to mention that the Southeast kids did a great job as well. You know, all of the schools send teams. They work so hard, and it's intense. If you've ever been an FFA or been involved, it's intense. It's a lot of work, but such great life skills that come out of that. So Southeast did a fantastic job as well. So there you go. Any other topics? Okay. Future meetings, next regular school board meeting is Tuesday, May 12th at 6 p.m. District graduations are coming up. So Wednesday, May 13th at 5 p.m. We've got PRS at the EWC auditorium. Sunday, May 17th, we've got at 1 o'clock THS, 2:30 is LFL, and 4 o'clock is Southeast. Lorraine, are you going to need us to tell you who's planning on attending? And okay, so if everybody could do that, that would be fabulous. Other than that, that's all we got. So the meeting. Oh, I'm sure. The C-Tech building?
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Maxey. I just thought they were quicker in getting their damage fixed. All right.
Separate. It was actually electrical there.
Oh, gotcha.
Completely different project.
Completely different. All right. With that, the meeting is adjourned.